Yeah, I'm very small, so it's better to stand up. Feel more comfortable. Thank you very much. I mean, I will start by talking about networks. I think it's a key element of global governance. So, as you may know, the CNIL is the French Data Protection Authority. We are in charge of regulating and giving advice to actors such as business, but also public authorities on the way they deal and process personal data. We are also here to inform the public, and we are here to investigate and also to sanction when there are some violations. But we are not the only one. I mean, we are the only one in France, but we have also some counterparts in the European Union. As you may know, we have 27 counterparts, and we are working very closely together. We have some regular meetings, approximately every 2 months in Brussels. I mean, we have subgroups that work on key subjects, and we issue opinions at the European level on the way to interpret the European directive. So we have already a very structured and unique network in the European Union. And also at an international level, maybe you have heard about the International Conference of Privacy Commissioners, that I mean, where we are among 80 data protection authorities from a little bit more than 40 countries. We are meeting every year once, and where we issue resolutions on important key subjects, for example, on web tracking, on profiling, on cooperation. And so we have also at the international level some practice about the way to cooperate together. And that's, of course, a very important element of governance. So now I will talk a little bit about the content, and we'll go back to also to Claire's presentation on that. This seems to be quite quiet and calm, what I just explained to you, this kind of network. But we are, in fact, living right now a revolution, a real revolution at a different level. First at the European level, but also at the OECD level, at the Council of Europe level, at the International Conference level, and at the APEC level. There is right now, it's a very historical moment. I mean, it's quite rare. It happens sometimes, maybe every, I don't know, 50 years, something like that, where you have all instruments that are currently under review at the same time. So there is, of course, a lot of discussion, debates on what should be, in fact, this global governance from a content point of view, but also from a network point of view. And it's very interesting to see that we are not at all in the same position where we were in 1995, where the directive was designed, because in 1995 we were quite alone, in fact. We were just Europe and some others around, but it was really Europe that was a leader. Now it's different. I mean, there is Asia, there is the US that are investing a lot on privacy. As Claire said, I mean, it's true that it's the approach is not exactly the same. It's about trust. It's about building trust for consumer in order to develop the internet. So it's a real economical challenge and objective. So just to say that the rapport de force, the relationship are totally different today. And so that's why it's also very interesting. So I will start with the first revolution for us. So it's the EU revolution. Right now, today, in fact, there is a meeting at the European Council among governments where they develop the new governance model for Europe. So they will decide exactly on how they see, you know, the way we should work together among DPA at the European level. And we just heard that on Monday there will be the vote at the Parliament, the European Parliament, on the draft regulation. So the deadline of the 21st of October is maintained, and so we will have a big decision on Monday, and we'll get the feeling of the Parliament on the new governance model for tomorrow in Europe. We have to say that from the CNIL perspective, we are very much in favor of the proposed text that is being discussed right now by the European institution. It's going in the right direction. As Claire said also, it's about more effective protection, it's exactly that. It's about maybe simplify filing requirements. I'm sure that you have heard about the CNIL declaration or notification, and that's unfortunate because that's not the only thing we should think of when we're talking about privacy. It's just an administrative and maybe burdensome thing, but it's privacy is much more about information. It's about having the right legal basis. It's about securing data. It's about having a framework when you transfer data abroad. So it's much more than just notifying your processing to the CNIL. And so it's exactly the purpose of this revolution. It's to say, okay, don't need now any more filing requirements, but we need to have effective and real protection inside companies or public authority. And this is about accountability. This is about moving from theory to practice, to have first values, of course, but also to have tools and mechanisms inside the company, such as audit programs, such as training programs, such as network of privacy officer among the companies that make really privacy lively. And so we think that it's good, even if we have been very involved a lot on the filing work. I mean, we think that it's a good move. We think also that it's good because it's reinforced the data subject rights, and it's very interesting because if you look at the draft regulation, in fact maintain all the principles that exist today, which means that we were not that wrong. In 1995, all the key principles are still in fact accurate and relevant and appropriate information. Again, exercise of your right to access to your personal data, exercise your right to rectify, to erase your personal data. This is of course maintained, and also the important principle, for example, about proportionality, about incompatible use, what Claire was also talking about. So this is maintained, and there is also something important about security breach, about legal framework for process. So I don't want to enter too much into the details, but it's really going in the right direction. We from the OECD now, about the OECD, it's also important because it's true that it's not a binding instrument, but it's the only forum in the world where you have European governments and also APEC governments. So you have the US, you have Japan, you have Canada, and you have all the EU member states. So it's a kind of unique forum when you can really exchange on the principles. And we have been very much, at the CNIL, we followed very, with a lot of care what happened at the OECD, because it doesn't have any legal value, it's true, but it's important from a political point of view. And also there was a problem of timing, because the OECD wanted to adopt the guidelines before the regulation. But the problem is that, as we don't know exactly what the rules will be at the European level, it was not easy to negotiate the rules at the international level that go beyond the European Union scope. And that was a little bit a problem in the negotiation, in fact. But the good thing is that we managed to keep the acquis communautaire, so also what's our values, as the OECD guidelines give the possibility to the governments to have stricter rules than what is prescribed by the OECD. Same for Council of Europe. Council of Europe, it's under discussion, but it should not be adopted before the European regulation. They, of course, are trying to work with the European Commission and to have a kind of, to have a kind of logical calendar. So to have first the Europe approve their text of reference, and then to negotiate at the Council of Europe. For Asia, see if we can talk about for some second about Asia and the US. Yes, there is great development in those this geographical zone, with the APEC framework and also what we call the cross-border privacy, or the CBPR, which is a way to guarantee free flow of information within the APEC region. Just to remember, APEC, it's 21 member states. Among them, there is Russia, there is China, there is there are the US, and there are also Japan, Singapore, Canada, and New Zealand. I mean, it's I think 3 times the economic weight of Europe. So what they do is quite important and can have an impact. And so we have initiated some talks, some discussion with APEC on this project of the cross-border privacy rules, because in fact it's very close to what we do with binding corporate rules, as Winston talked just before me. It's in both instruments are in fact co-regulation. I mean, it's about code of conduct developed by the business that take on board some values and that have also some accountability inside. So you have the values, but also you have plenty of mechanisms that should be put in place in order to make sure that the company respects the values. And everything is certified. So in Europe, the certification is done by the Data Protection Authority. So CNIL is certifying BCR right now. And in the APEC, it's the private sector that do this certification, and it's reviewed by enforcement authorities, by privacy enforcement authorities. So it's not exactly the same system, but it's very close because it's about internal self-regulations, but certified by a third party. And with the same goal, it's to allow transfer of personal data. So we started to discuss with them, and it went quite well, because in fact they created a committee called the APEC EU committee, and we meet regularly in order to see whether we can find some convergence. And what we did at the Working Party 29 level is that we did a very thorough analysis of the APEC framework and the APEC CBPR, and we compared them to the BCR. And we, in fact, developed a common referential. You have like common rules, and with additional block for BCR, additional block for CBPR, because as some of you said, it's not exactly the same rules, and it's not exactly the same way to interpret those rules. But there are some interesting convergence. So we did this analysis, and now, in fact, what are we doing at the Apex, at the DC committee, is that we are negotiating the referential. So we are all together around the table. There is all the 21 members. There is the US. Also, as I said to you, there is all those very important countries, and there is 3 representatives from the Working Party. There is Germany, there is the EDPS, and there is the CNIL, and the European Commission is also participating. And so we are discussing during, generally it's one day, we are going through all the principles, and it's very interesting. It's the first time that it happened, to be able to exchange on what is personal data, what is information, as you said, but do we share the same point of view about layered notice of information or extensive notice of information, about the security, about the rights of the person. I mean, we are really trying to understand each other and work together and issue something together. So which is very, very important. We'll see. For the moment, it's going well. We try, of course, to find some common denominator, but when it's not possible, it's going back to the additional blocks for BCR, additional blocks for CBPR. And the idea right now is to adopt that for beginning of 2014. And then after we will work on the process, because now we are at the content level. And tomorrow we will work on the process, because the idea behind is to have a double certification system. So you can get certified in the EU and you can get certified in the APEC. So you will have two certification. What is very important is that we don't talk, for the moment at least, about mutual recognition. We are not talking about adequacy. We don't say, you are good and I'm better, or I'm better than you do, or you are bad and I'm better. We don't really judge each other. We just try to find a way, in fact, to give some practical and pragmatical tools to the business that operates in the EU and in APEC, for them to get something about the free flow of information. So it's really something designed for the companies and for the business, but we don't try to say it's the same. It's not. It's not the same. But we just try to find some process to connect the system together and to make the system interact together. This is also important because, and as maybe you heard about, there is now this trendy word called interoperability. Now it's in all conferences, in privacy conferences, everybody is talking about interoperability. That's the the dream of everybody. It's linked to global privacy governance. In fact, it's what should be the solution, the magic solution for tomorrow. And to be honest with you, we don't know what interoperability means. There is so many, it's like accountability. I mean, there are so many definitions about that from, across the Atlantic. At the CNIL level, and it's also what we share at the European level, and it's what we are trying to do, and in fact we are doing in practice with the EPEC. We don't try to have the same standards all around the world because we are not sure that it's possible. But again, we are trying to find some pragmatic solution to make the different ecosystem work together. So that's really how we try to make that happen. My last point is that maybe on cooperation. And so I'm going back, in fact, to my introduction about network. This is also a very important topic for DPAs. It's not necessarily for the business, or it can be, but it's more a problem of DPAs. It's how do we work better together at a European level and also at an international level. At the European level, there are some interesting discussion right now linked to the draft regulation about what we call the one-stop shop. I don't know if you heard about that. It's that the business will have one interlocutor, one point of contact for Europe. And what the Commission proposed right now is that the business choose its the DPA that is competent for its business. We have been really worried at the CNIL level, but also with other data protection authority, that it will lead to forum shopping. That in fact, it's like a bit in tax law. You can elect where you are, when you can set up, and it trigger the competence of the authority. Here we are not talking about tax. We are talking about private life. We are talking about the intimacy of people. We are talking about things that are moving very fast with very high technology. So right now we are working with our counterparts at the working party level, but with our government as well. And we are very happy to have the French government on the same line than the CNIL on that, to say, no, that's not what we want. We want, of course, to have a one-stop shop for the business. This is very good. We have to need to get only one door, but not 28 or 27 door or whatever. But still, the DPA should remain competent for the citizen. They should be the contact point for the citizen, so there should be also one-stop shop for citizen. And we should work, better cooperate, create something effective at a European level. So this is about governance, but at a European level. And in fact, we are doing the same at the international level. There was, for us, a very important resolution that was taken 3 weeks ago, something like that, in Warsaw, at the International Conference of Privacy Commissioner, about the strategy for the International Conference of Privacy Commissioner. So what should be the plan for the next 20 years at an international level? How we cooperate together, for example, on Google case, as we did in Europe, but also at an international level. How do we set up, the model for cooperation at the international level? So that's right now what also we are trying to define. Do we need to have a specific organization with a secretariat, a budget? We'll see. That's I hope I will be able to come back in order to tell you. So the last thing I want to say is that not sure that we have today the solution for privacy governance. But what is sure is that we have there is a need, there is a real willingness from all stakeholders. That could be the business, the DPA, the government, data subject. And we have also many ideas on the table. So it's like a bit a house. I mean, we have all the stones, but now we just have to build it. Thank you.